Imagine that you can steal $40 million, but legally. Some will say that since the issue is legal, it should not be considered theft. But when you hear the details of this story, believe me, you will feel that it is really a theft. So listen and judge. At the beginning of the 80s, airlines in various countries of the world were going through a crisis, and American companies in particular were in the depth of this crisis. If we compare the costs of flights at that time with their costs at the present time, we will find that flights in the 80s cost 50% more than flights in the current time. Airplanes were more expensive and engines less efficient, so they spent more on oil and many other things. So the costs of airlines at that time were more expensive and their profits lower. At that time, American Airlines was the national airline in America. It was one of the companies most affected by the crisis. In the year 1981, the company announced that it had lost $76 million. So the company's situation was difficult, and they needed money. They needed cash. So the company's board of directors met to work on finding solutions and ideas to get out of this critical situation. So the discussion began between the members of the board of directors, and each one of them tried to present ideas in order to attract more customers, and they began to think about offers that could make their trips attractive. But one of these board members was thinking differently, and he came up with the idea that they wouldn't need to attract new customers to buy flight tickets. But instead, he said that they should take more money from their existing client base, especially their wealthy ones. Okay, but how? He suggests creating a subscription called AirPass, which is an airline card. Whoever buys it can travel on our flights for life without paying any extra fees. When the general director first heard the idea, he loved it, and the board of directors sat down to discuss how they could implement it in the best possible way. They decided to create 2 cards. The first card is called AirPass, or the Air Transit card, and the second card is called Company Pass, or the Companion card. The price of the AirPass was $250,000, while the Companion card is $150,000. This Air Transit card is a card that allows you to ride on any American Airlines flight all over the world for the rest of your life. Moreover, you will travel in first class, and you will get all the services that they provide to their distinguished customers. While for the Companion card, allows you to take any person with you on any of these trips with the same privileges, but this person must be with you on the same trip, meaning that he can't travel alone using the card. You can take anyone you want. You can take your wife, your son, your friend, or even a stranger you don't know. So if a person decided to buy these 2 cards together, he needs to pay $400,000. A large amount, of course. The airline thought that this way they would get a lot of money quickly. And at the same time, they thought that they would profit from this deal because they believed that no one would use these cards to travel every day. They were sure that those who buy such cards are wealthy people. These people may be businessmen, celebrities, or athletes, so they don't have enough time to travel every day. Our friend, Steve Rothstein, was one of the 66 people who bought the Air Transit card and Companion card together. Steve will make American Airlines regret the moment they thought of making these cards, because, over the next 22 years, he would book more than 10,000 flights. Meaning, the number of flights he booked was more than the days in 22 years. So, how did he do it? The first reason is that our friend used to take more than 1 trip a day on the same day, even 4 or 5 trips in one day. The second thing was that he didn't take all the trips he booked. So he used to book 2 consecutive flights to the same destination, in case he was late or in case he changed his mind. So he always books backup flights. Our friend Steve was flying almost every day for the most insignificant reasons you can imagine. For example, he used to fly to Ontario in Canada just to eat a sandwich in a certain restaurant, and the next day he traveled to Paris in the morning and have lunch and return to America at night. He enters a VIP waiting room, travels on the first class, and enjoys all the distinguished services such as entertainment, high-quality meals, and more. For Steve, this was the best investment in his entire life, while this was a disaster for the American Airlines. And more than that, there was a second person named Jack Fraun. The same thing. He bought the air transit card, along with the companion card. Jack Fraun was like Steve flying anywhere for the strangest reasons you can imagine. One time, Jack flew to Washington to bring his wife's father with him. Before the trip, when he was sitting in the VIP waiting room at the airport, one of the passengers asked him about the reason for his trip. Jack told him that he was going to Washington to take his wife's father, to take care of the kids, because he was planning to travel with his wife. The man said while he was surprised that it's cheaper to pay for a babysitter than taking VIP flight. But in fact, what the passenger didn't know is that the flight cost was cheaper for Jack than a babysitter. Steve and Jack were the worst customers for American Airlines during these years. Steve has traveled a total of 48 million kilometers. As for Jack, the total distance of his travels was about 56 million kilometers, meaning the total distance they traveled together was 104 million kilometers. The airline estimated that each one of these persons was costing them almost $1 million every year, especially with the many reservations they were booking and abandoning. It looked like theft, but illegal theft, and they remained like this for 20 years. In total, Steve and Jack cost American Airlines more than $40 million. They made them regret the moment they thought of this card idea. American Airlines started increasing the price of these cards from time to time. The first thing, they raised it from $250,000 to $600,000 in the year 1990. 3 years later, they raised it again and made it $1 million per card, and a year later they canceled the program because of the huge losses. In 2007, American Airlines entered major financial problems again. They had to try to reduce costs in order to cut losses, so a team specialized in the matter was formed to review accounts and records to find out what is wrong. They found that among the causes of the crisis was the huge cost and expenses spent on cardholders, headed by Steve and Jack. The other cardholders were causing the company heavy losses as well. One of them, for example, whose name was Mike Joyce, took round trips to London 16 times in 25 days. The company wanted to get out of this bad situation. In the year 2008, the company sent a letter to Steve. The content of the message says that his card has been canceled and that he won't be able to use it anymore, nor the companion card. The reason is that he was taking precautionary reservations with fake names on the companion card. He used to go to the airport and offer strangers to travel with him for free in the first class, and then after that, he changed the fake name of the reservation to the name of the stranger he met in the airport. So the airline considered this as a fraud, and on this basis, they revoked all his cards. The company sent a similar letter to Jack, accusing him of selling the accompanying trips he books. Because according to their records, he traveled with more than 100 different companions, and most of them did not come back with him, which aroused suspicions that he was selling flight reservations, which is contrary to the terms of the contract between him and the company. The company even tried to contact some of the people who traveled with him and tried to investigate them, asking them if they had paid something to Jack in exchange for taking them with the companion card. Of course, Jack denied these accusations and considered the company's actions hostile. But anyway, the company canceled their cards, and also the cards of other people for different reasons. However, Steve and Jack filed cases against American Airlines, but it was very difficult to fight a company worth billions of dollars in court. So in the end, it became an out-of-court settlement between them and the company. It's hard to figure out the exact amount of this settlement, since it was out of court, but some sources say that the company convinced them that they would get them back the original amount that they paid on the cards. However, to this day, 25 people still have valid cards and can still travel unlimitedly on any American Airlines flight. In the end, who do you think is wrong about what happened? Is it all the fault of the company because they are the ones who made this offer? Or it's the cardholders' fault because they misused it? Can we call this illegal theft? Let me see your opinions in the comments. Here we come to the end of our story. If you like it, Do not forget to like and subscribe and activate the bell button so that you can receive new videos. Bye.